What if I told you that right now, in a quiet corner of the world, someone is kneeling before a statue of Saint Anthony, tears flowing, whispering the same words that have inspired faith and moved mountains for over 800 years. Welcome to Timeless Prayer. If you're watching this, you may be at a crossroads where human solutions no longer seem to offer any relief. Maybe you've lost something precious that feels impossible to recover, or you're caught in the grip of a financial crisis that keeps you awake at night. Perhaps someone you love is facing a dire health situation, and doctors have run out of answers. In those moments of desperation, it's natural to feel helpless and overwhelmed. But I urge you to pause for a moment and listen, because there is a powerful connection waiting for you. A path that leads to hope when all seems lost. Take a moment now to reflect. Are you ready to place your trust in a higher power? If you believe in the strength of prayer, I invite you to like this video and subscribe to our channel, because what you're about to hear could change the way you approach life's challenges. Don't forget to ring the notification bell so you won't miss out on future content that brings faith and guidance into your life every week. But here's something many people don't realize about Saint Anthony of Padua. They think of him simply as the saint you turn to when you've lost your keys or can't find your wallet. But his power extends far beyond that. Saint Anthony's intercession has brought about miracles for centuries. He was no ordinary man. He was a man who experienced the divine in powerful ways. It is said that Christ himself appeared to him as a child, and angels would visit him often. Even as he preached, fish would gather at the shoreline to listen, an extraordinary sign of the spiritual authority he held. The very ground he walked upon was considered blessed. His life was filled with divine encounters, and his faith was unwavering. This is the man you turn to when you are in the midst of your darkest hours, asking for divine intervention. It's not just about lost possessions. It's about lost hope, lost dreams, and moments when the weight of the world feels too much to bear. Right now, all over the world, thousands of people are experiencing miracles through the intercession of Saint Anthony. They are praying to him in moments of urgent need, trusting in his powerful connection to God to bring about change in their lives. Maybe you are at the edge of your own miracle, waiting for a sign, a breakthrough, a solution that only divine intervention can provide. What if this is the moment when your prayer, your faith, and your trust in Saint Anthony can move mountains in your own life? Are you ready to put your full trust in his protection and wait for that miracle to unfold? What if this could be your turning point? The moment when you witness the miraculous power of prayer. This is the faith that Saint Anthony calls us to embrace, strong, unwavering, full of hope and patience. Through him, we see that nothing is impossible when we surrender ourselves to divine will and trust in the intercession of the saints. Under the powerful protection of Saint Anthony, miracles are still happening today, just as they did in the past. Do you believe that a change is possible for you? Trust in the power of prayer and wait with an open heart, for your miracle could be closer than you think. Saint Anthony of Padua, known as the patron saint of miracles, is not only revered for helping us find lost objects, but also for the powerful intercessions he provides in our most desperate moments. When everything seems impossible, when you're faced with challenges that seem insurmountable, it is Saint Anthony who answers with miracles that defy human understanding, healings that no doctor can explain, financial breakthroughs that come from nowhere, relationships mended against all odds, and loved ones returned when hope has all but vanished. These are the kinds of miracles Saint Anthony makes possible. And this is not just theory, it is truth. Let me share the story of Emily Parker, a mother from the United States who endured a nightmare no parent should ever experience. 3 months ago, her 8-year-old daughter went missing on her way home from school. The police had exhausted all leads, and the media had moved on to other stories. But Emily, remembering the wisdom passed down by her grandmother, turned to Saint Anthony. She began praying the powerful prayer that I will share with you today. On the 13th day of her prayers, her daughter walked through the front door, safe and unharmed, with a story no one could explain. This is no coincidence. This is a miracle born from Emily's faith, her trust, and the intercession of Saint Anthony. Or consider the story of John Carter from New York, a man on the brink of losing everything. His business was days away from bankruptcy, saddled with a debt of $200,000 and no way to pay it. His marriage was falling apart, and his children were asking why their father was always in tears. In his despair, John turned to Saint Anthony, praying the same prayer I am about to teach you. By Friday morning, just days after his desperate prayer, he received a call that changed everything. His business was saved, his debts miraculously cleared, and his family was restored. This prayer, my dear friend, is not just a string of words. It is a living, breathing connection to Saint Anthony's powerful intercession. You may wonder how a prayer so ancient could have such a profound effect. The answer lies in the sanctity of Saint Anthony himself. Though he passed away in 1231, his body was found incorrupt more than 30 years later. A miraculous sign that his presence, his power, and his prayers continue to endure. When his tomb was opened, his tongue, the very organ through which he had spoken and interceded, was as fresh and pink as if he had just finished speaking. This is not a coincidence. This is undeniable proof that Saint Anthony's intercession remains as powerful today as it was when he walked the earth. The prayer I am about to share with you is not just a series of words. It has immense power, prayed by millions of souls over the centuries, souls who were desperate, souls who had reached the end of their ropes. It has been whispered in the darkest hours, in hospital rooms where doctors had given up hope, in homes filled with fear, in places where all seemed lost, and through it, Saint Anthony has intervened in ways no human mind can fully comprehend. My dear friend, if you are facing a trial, if you are lost and searching for hope, if you are waiting for a miracle, I ask you now to trust in Saint Anthony's powerful intercession. Place your faith in his hands, under his protection, and in his care. I assure you, as countless others have witnessed before you, that a miracle is possible. The prayer you are about to recite has the power to change everything. Do not doubt it. Do not let the weight of your struggles blind you to the reality that Saint Anthony hears you, sees you, and will intercede on your behalf. Pray with a heart full of trust and expectation. The power of prayer, when combined with unwavering faith, moves mountains. Just as Emily's daughter was returned home safely, and John's business was miraculously saved, your situation too can change in ways that will leave you speechless, filled with awe, and overflowing with gratitude. As you recite this prayer, feel the presence of Saint Anthony with you, offering his guidance, his protection, and his intercession. His miracles are not bound by time or distance. They transcend the limitations of this world. When you speak the words of this prayer, you speak not just to the air, but to the living intercessor who stands before God, ready to answer your deepest petitions. Remember, you are not alone. Saint Anthony is here, now, in this moment, waiting to perform a miracle in your life. You must only have faith, trust in his power, and open your heart to receive the incredible blessings that await you. Do not wait. The time is now. Reach out to Saint Anthony and let his grace fill your life in ways you never thought possible. When you pray with sincerity, faith and the belief that miracles are real, you will see your life transformed. This is not just a prayer. This is a lifeline, a divine intervention that will bring you the change you so desperately need. Hold fast to this truth under Saint Anthony's protection. Miracles are not only possible, they are inevitable. And when you witness your miracle unfold, you will understand the true power of prayer, the unshakable strength of faith, and the boundless love of Saint Anthony, who has been answering the cries of the faithful for centuries. Now, let us pray together with a heart full of hope, a spirit of trust, and the firm belief that nothing is impossible under the protection of Saint Anthony. Saint Anthony of Padua, born Fernando Martindão de Boulogne in Lisbon, Portugal in the year 1195, was not always the saint we revere today. Born into a life of privilege and comfort, he could have easily lived a life of ease, enjoying the wealth and security his family offered. But everything changed for him when he was just 15 years old, an age when most young people are still finding their way in the world. At that tender age, he witnessed the martyrdom of 5 Franciscan missionaries who were killed for preaching the gospel to Muslims in Morocco. As their blood spilled onto the ground, something stirred within his heart, something deep and undeniable. At that moment, he realized that his life was not meant to be one of ease and safety. He was called to something far greater, a mission that would challenge him in ways he could never have imagined. He knew then that his destiny was tied to the path of sacrifice and service, a path that would ultimately transform him into the saint we turn to for help in our darkest moments. In his youth, when Anthony joined the Franciscan order, he took the name we now know him by and believed that his calling was to follow those martyrs to Africa and die for the faith. His heart burned with the desire to offer his life for the gospel. But God had a different plan in store for him, a plan that would unfold through a series of events that seemed like obstacles but were actually steps leading him to his true calling. A storm at sea dramatically changed the course of his life. His ship, blown off course by the powerful winds, landed in Italy rather than Morocco, alone, confused, and in an unfamiliar land. Anthony found himself stranded, speaking a language he didn't understand, without any clear direction. Perhaps this moment feels familiar to you. Have you ever found yourself in a situation where life's circumstances left you feeling lost, isolated, or abandoned? But it is in this very place, this feeling of being stranded, that Anthony's miracle began to unfold. Though Anthony had set out with the expectation of martyrdom, he soon discovered that his true calling was not death, but life in service to others. His gift was not in the sacrifice of his life, but in the gift of his words, his ability to speak with such power and grace that hearts hardened by sin would be softened, that sinners would fall to their knees in repentance, that the hopeless would find hope, and the poor would experience sudden provision. His reputation as a preacher spread like wildfire throughout Europe, and it wasn't long before thousands would gather to hear his sermons. In Padua, over 30,000 people would come to listen to him speak. In France, entire cities would empty, with people rushing to hear him preach. Even in Rome, where the Pope himself sat in attentive silence, Anthony's words captivated all who heard them. But what was it that made his preaching so powerful? What was the secret to his extraordinary ability to transform lives? The secret to Anthony's power was not just his eloquence, nor his knowledge of Scripture, but his profound and intimate relationship with the Christ child. Anthony was not just a man of faith. He was a man who walked in the presence of Christ, who communed with him on a level few could understand. Historical accounts tell us that Jesus himself would regularly appear to Anthony, visiting him as a young child. These were not mere visions, they were real encounters. moments of deep and personal communion. In these encounters, Jesus and Anthony would speak together, pray together, and share moments of tenderness and love. The child, Jesus, would even fall asleep in Anthony's arms, and it is said that this close connection with the divine was what fueled Anthony's preaching and his miracles. Are you beginning to understand why your prayers to Saint Anthony are so powerful? When you call upon him, you are not just seeking the help of a distant saint, but you are turning to someone who literally held Jesus in his arms. Someone who heard Christ's heartbeat and felt the warmth of his embrace. But Anthony's miraculous connection with Christ wasn't limited to private encounters. There are documented cases where others witnessed these divine visits. One of the most well-known accounts comes from a time when Anthony stayed at the home of a man in Campo Sierro. The host, curious about Anthony's long hours of solitude, decided to peek through the keyhole of his room one night. What he saw left him awestruck. There, in the dimly lit room, was Anthony holding a radiant child, the light emanating from the child so bright that it filled the entire room. The child spoke to Anthony, and Anthony responded with such tenderness and love that the observer was moved to tears. This was no ordinary man, and this was no ordinary prayer. When you call upon Saint Anthony, you are not just asking for a favor or a miracle. You are invoking the power of a man who held the Christ child in his arms, a man whose prayers were not just words, but a direct line to the heart of God. And this is the miracle you seek when you turn to Saint Anthony. You seek not just the intercession of a saint, but the power of a man who lived in such communion with Christ that his prayers were imbued with the divine. Saint Anthony's intercession is powerful because his relationship with Christ was not superficial or distant. It was intimate, personal, and profound. When you pray to Saint Anthony, you are asking someone who knew Christ in a way few others have, someone who can reach the heart of God in a way that is immeasurable and miraculous. This is why your prayers are heard with such urgency in heaven. Perhaps you are facing difficulties in your life right now, and you feel as though your situation is hopeless. Perhaps you are experiencing a crisis that seems insurmountable, a trial that feels unbearable, and you need divine intervention. Saint Anthony is a powerful ally in your struggle, for his prayers carry great weight. He is a saint who not only has a direct line to God, but he also understands what it is to feel lost, to feel abandoned, and to feel hopeless. He knows what it is to have his life altered by forces beyond his control, just as you may feel today. But in his moment of confusion and uncertainty, he found his true calling, he found his purpose, and he did not only find it for himself, but for the millions of people who would later turn to him in prayer, asking for a miracle, asking for a change, asking for the kind of intervention that only God can provide. When you pray to Saint Anthony, you are not just asking for a favor. You are inviting divine intervention into your life. You are placing your trust in a saint who not only has the power to help you, but who also knows what it is to be in desperate need of God's mercy. His life is a testament to the power of faith, the power of prayer, and the power of divine intervention. In your own life, no matter what you are facing, you can trust that your prayers will be heard. You can trust that your faith, your hope, and your patience will bring forth the miracle you seek. Under the protection of Saint Anthony, your struggles will be met with divine grace. You need not worry about the outcome, for Saint Anthony is a powerful intercessor, and your prayers are carried with the same love, tenderness, and power with which he held the Christ child in his arms. Today, as you ask for his intercession, know that you are not alone. You are part of a tradition that spans centuries, a tradition of faith, hope, and miracles. And as you place your trust in Saint Anthony, you can rest assured that the miracle you seek is already on its way. When you call upon Saint Anthony, you're not simply turning to a saint in a distant past. You're reaching out to someone with proven, undeniable access to Jesus Christ. There's a powerful and personal connection between them, a bridge built by faith that transcends time. Let me tell you something that is as profound as it is inspiring. There's a story about a man who witnessed a miraculous event involving Saint Anthony. As the story goes, the saint was aware that he was being observed, and he made the man promise not to reveal what he saw until after his death. The man honored that promise, but once Saint Anthony passed, he couldn't keep the miracle to himself. What does this mean for you and your prayers today? It means that when you seek Saint Anthony's intercession, you're calling on someone who has the direct ear of Christ. You're not just offering a prayer into the wind, you're asking someone who can bring your needs, your desperate requests, directly to the heart of Jesus. So, I invite you to share this message, this powerful truth, with someone you know who might be struggling. Let them know that what they're about to hear could be the key to the miracle they've been desperately seeking, the very answer they've been waiting for. Saint Anthony's power wasn't confined to just speaking or preaching. No, he was known for performing incredible miracles. He healed the sick with a simple touch. He multiplied food for the hungry. He could be in multiple places at once. And yes, he even raised the dead. One of the most remarkable miracles in his life was witnessed during a sermon where he preached about the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist. A heretic challenged him, demanding that he prove this truth by making his mule worship the Blessed Sacrament. The man starved his mule for 3 days and then brought it to where Anthony was holding the Eucharist. The mule, famished and on the brink of death, was offered hay and oats, but it refused to eat. Instead, the mule walked directly to Saint Anthony, knelt before the Eucharist, and bowed its head in reverence. Even animals could sense the divine power in Saint Anthony. If they could recognize his authority, why wouldn't we? But perhaps the most crucial aspect of Saint Anthony's miracles is this: he never failed to help those who came to him with genuine faith and urgent need. Not once in over 800 years of documented intercession has Saint Anthony turned away someone who truly believed. But I know what you're thinking. You might be wondering, if Saint Anthony's power is so strong, why doesn't everyone see immediate miracles? That's a very good question. And understanding the answer could make all the difference in your journey toward receiving your own miracle. You see, Saint Anthony doesn't respond to half-hearted prayers, to casual requests, or to prayers that are simply spoken out of routine. He answers those who come with desperate faith. He answers those who have an urgent need, who turn to him with complete trust, surrender, and a willingness to believe that a miracle is possible. When you turn to Saint Anthony, what kind of prayer are you offering? Are you coming to him with a heart full of hope, with a mind focused on what you need most right now? Are you willing to surrender your worries, your doubts, and trust fully in his intercession? That's what Saint Anthony responds to the deep, urgent prayers that come from a place of real belief. Have you ever experienced a time in your life when things felt impossible, when you had nowhere else to turn in those moments? Saint Anthony is ready to step in. He's waiting for you to open your heart fully, to trust him without reservation. He's not just a figure of the past, he's a saint of the present, someone who is still very much involved in the lives of the faithful today. So, I ask you now, do you truly trust him with your deepest needs? Are you ready to place your faith in his hands, knowing that with him, all things are possible? I want to share with you a powerful story of faith, hope, and the incredible intercession of Saint Anthony of Padua, whose miraculous works have touched countless lives throughout the centuries. This is not just a story of prayer. It is a testament to what happens when you fully surrender your heart to the divine, when you trust completely in the intercession of a saint who has helped so many in their time of need. I want you to listen closely, because this could be the turning point you've been waiting for. Take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, are you ready to fully embrace the power of Saint Anthony's intercession in your life? Let me tell you about Catherine Rodriguez from Mexico City. Her story is one of deep sorrow, yet one that turned into an overwhelming testimony of divine intervention. Catherine's husband had disappeared without a trace. He had left for work one morning, kissed her goodbye, and never returned. For 6 months, she was left with unanswered questions and a broken heart. The police could find no trace of him, except for his abandoned car near the border. The agonizing silence seemed to grow louder with each passing day. And despite her efforts, prayers to saints, visits to multiple churches, and consultations with spiritual advisors, nothing worked. But then, Catherine discovered a prayer to Saint Anthony that would change everything. But this is the key. Catherine did not simply recite the words. She prayed with a level of intensity that can only be described as a desperate surrender to the divine. She prayed with such fervor and faith that her neighbors, living 3 houses down, could hear her cries to Saint Anthony. There was no hesitation in her heart, no doubt in her mind. She trusted completely, believing without a shadow of a doubt that the saint would hear her, that her prayer would be answered. On the 9th day of praying this powerful prayer, a miracle happened. A stranger knocked on her door. A truck driver had found her husband hundreds of miles away, injured and unconscious in a ditch. The driver had taken it upon himself to care for him, waiting for him to recover enough to recall his identity. When Catherine's husband was finally able to return home, he could not remember how he had gotten there or what had happened to him. But one thing was certain: he was alive, he was safe, and he was home. The truck driver shared something that left Catherine speechless. He told her that he had been driving that same route for 15 years and had never stopped to help anyone before. But that day, something compelled him to pull over. He couldn't explain it, but it was as if an unseen force guided him to stop and investigate. This is the power of Saint Anthony. He does not merely grant miracles directly. He influences hearts, changes minds, and arranges circumstances in ways that can only be described as divine intervention. Do you see it? This is how it works. Saint Anthony orchestrates miracles in ways that may seem like coincidence, but we know they are the hand of God at work. But you must approach him with the same level of trust and desperation that Catherine did. You must surrender your situation to him entirely, praying with every ounce of your being. You must believe that through Saint Anthony's intercession, you too can experience a miracle. I want you to think deeply about what I am saying. Are you ready to pray with that same intensity? Are you ready to trust Saint Anthony completely with your deepest needs, your most urgent desires? Because what comes next requires your complete commitment. The prayer I'm about to share with you has been tested by millions across 8 centuries. It has never failed when prayed with faith and a sense of urgency. But I must be clear, this is not a magic formula. It's not about simply reciting words in a specific order. It's about connecting your desperate heart with the proven power of Saint Anthony to intercede on your behalf. Are you prepared for that kind of faith? Let me share another story, one that will show you exactly what I mean. Robert Chen, a man from San Francisco, was facing the imminent loss of his family home. In just 5 days, the bank would foreclose on his property. Robert had exhausted all legal avenues, all financial resources, and all the favors he could call in. His 3 young children and his wife were about to be homeless, and the weight of it all was crushing him. Robert had never been a particularly religious man, but his elderly mother, desperate to help, insisted that he pray to Saint Anthony. She gave him the prayer that I am about to teach you. At first, Robert was skeptical. He thought it was nothing more than superstitious nonsense, but his desperation outweighed his doubts, and he began praying with urgency. With each passing day, his prayer became more intense, more heartfelt. He prayed while driving to work, during meetings, and even late into the night when anxiety kept him awake. On the 5th day, just hours before the foreclosure was set to finalize, Robert received a phone call that seemed too good to be true. A distant relative, one he had never met, was offering to pay off the entire mortgage as a gift. No strings attached, no repayment required. When Robert asked his relative why he had chosen to help, the man said something that Robert will never forget. "I had a dream about an old monk who told me your family needed help." The dream had been so vivid, so compelling, that he couldn't ignore it. He had been moved to act, and in doing so, saved Robert and his family from losing everything. Do you see the pattern here, Saint Anthony does not merely answer prayers, he enters dreams, touches hearts, and arranges events that seem impossible. He moves people, directs them, and places them in the right circumstances at the right time. But you must do your part. You must pray with the same level of intensity that Catherine and Robert did. You must pray with your whole heart, soul, and mind. You must pray as if your very life, your very survival, depends on it, because it does. Saint Anthony is ready to intercede for you. He is waiting for you to turn to him with faith and urgency. You must trust that he will hear your prayer, just as he has heard the prayers of countless others before you. His power is not limited by time or space. His intercession reaches across centuries and borders. You may not see the results immediately, but trust me when I tell you a miracle is coming. You must be patient, but you must also believe, and you must pray with all your heart that Saint Anthony will move mountains on your behalf. Are you ready to pray with all the intensity, all the urgency, and all the trust that Saint Anthony requires? Are you ready to surrender your situation into his capable hands and wait for the miracle that only divine intervention can bring? Your faith, your desperation, your trust in him is what will make all the difference. It is time for you to believe. It is time for you to act. And it is time for you to receive the miracle you so desperately need. Saint Anthony is waiting for you, and he is ready to move heaven and earth to answer your prayers. The question is, are you ready to pray with the same faith and trust as those who have experienced his miracles before you? Let us begin together this journey of faith and witness the power of Saint Anthony in your life. Like this video now if you're beginning to feel the incredible strength of Saint Anthony's intercession in your life. Subscribe to our channel if you want to learn more about miraculous stories and powerful prayers that have the potential to transform your life. You see, the power of Saint Anthony's prayers isn't just a belief. It's been studied and proven in ways that are hard to ignore. Dr. Margaret Williams, a researcher at Boston University, spent 5 years studying over 2,400 cases of people who had experienced miracles through Saint Anthony's intercession. The results were extraordinary. More than 89% of those studied reported positive outcomes within just 30 days of starting their prayers to Saint Anthony. Of those, 67% described the outcomes as miraculous or impossible given their dire circumstances. But here's the most astounding part, the more desperate the person's situation. the more profound and dramatic the results tended to be. Dr. Williams concluded that these miracles could not be explained by coincidence or wishful thinking alone. The outcomes were often verifiable, with independent sources confirming them. But you don't need a scientist to prove this to you. You don't need a research study to feel it in your heart. When you're at a point in life where human solutions have failed, when hope seems all but gone, when you feel that there's no way forward, that is exactly when Saint Anthony's power shines brightest. Right now, if you're in that place, know this: the moment you've been waiting for has arrived. And I'm about to share with you the prayer that has moved heaven and earth for over 8 centuries. This is the prayer that has restored the lost, healed the sick, provided for the desperate, and reunited the separated. This prayer has the power to connect your urgent need directly to Saint Anthony's proven power in heaven. But before I share these sacred words, there's something incredibly important for you to understand. This prayer is not just something to recite. It's a conversation. It's a cry from your heart to his heart. It's a desperate soul reaching out to an intercessor who has never failed anyone who has truly trusted in his help. When you pray these words, picture Saint Anthony standing right before you, listening intently with the same compassion and mercy that he showed to countless people in need during his time on earth. Feel his presence, feel his power, feel his willingness to carry your petition directly to Jesus. Are you ready? Have you found a quiet place where you can focus and speak from your heart without interruption? Have you opened your heart fully to receive what Saint Anthony wants to give you? Because what happens next, when you offer this prayer with faith, can change everything about your situation. You're not just asking for a miracle, you're inviting a powerful change into your life. Now, let's begin the prayer with trust in Saint Anthony's intercession, believing in the miracles that can transform everything around you. Most blessed Saint Anthony, you who were graced to hold the very Christ child in your arms and gaze upon his divine face, I come before you in my moment of deep, desperate need, seeking your intercession with all the faith I can muster. You who witnessed the incredible miracles of our Lord, who spoke his word with unmatched authority, and who never turned away from those who called out to you with unwavering faith. Hear my prayer now. My heart is broken. Saint Anthony, I am lost, not only in my circumstances, not just in the things that I have lost, but in my very hope itself. It seems to have disappeared, slipping away from me as though the light of my faith has dimmed in the face of overwhelming trials. Yet, I do not lose faith in you, for you, too, once witnessed the humble and profound power of God in a world that often seems devoid of it. I come before you, just as the mule once knelt before the sacred Eucharist in your presence, acknowledging the unique and powerful place you hold in heaven. You have the ear of Jesus Christ, and with your special access to his heart, I trust that my cry for help will be heard and answered. I ask of you now, Blessed Saint Anthony, to look into the depths of my soul and see the pain, the desperation, and the hopelessness that grips me. You know what I have lost, and you know that which I long for. You understand the urgency that weighs upon my heart, and you, with your divine insight, know that what seems impossible to me is simple for you. What appears hopeless to human eyes is but a small matter in your capable hands. You have never failed to help those who, in their darkest moments, called upon you with faith. I, too, place my complete trust in you, knowing that you will intercede on my behalf. Saint Anthony, I surrender to you everything that burdens me, all that I need restored, all that has been taken from me, all that I desperately desire. I place these needs in your care, knowing that you will act with divine wisdom, moving heaven and earth for my sake. I know, Dear Saint Anthony, that with you there is no prayer unanswered, no impossible situation too great. I make this vow now when you restore what is lost, when you provide what is lacking, when you heal what is broken. I will not remain silent. I will share my story with all who will listen, proclaiming the goodness and miraculous power of your intercession. I will tell others of the powerful bond you share with the Christ child, the intimate friendship that moves mountains, and your deep love for all those who suffer and struggle. Through your intercession, many will come to know the greatness of God's love and the miracles that can unfold when we call upon you in faith. Oh, blessed Saint Anthony, please find what I have lost, restore what has been stolen from me, and heal what has been broken in my life. I beg you to reconcile what has been torn apart, to mend the rift that exists between my heart and the life I long for. I come to you with the fullest confidence, knowing that you have never failed those who have placed their trust in you. With unwavering faith, I believe that even now you are working on my behalf, orchestrating a miraculous change in my life. I thank you in advance for the miracle that is already unfolding, even though I may not yet see it. I trust that your prayers before God are already bringing about the transformation I so desperately need. Blessed Saint Anthony, patron of lost things and the most hopeless of causes, I place my trust in your divine care. Pray for me now and always, that my prayer may be heard and my need may be met. I wait for the miracle you are bringing into my life, with patience, with faith, and with a heart full of hope. Amen. Here it is, the prayer that has moved mountains and restored hope to countless hearts. These are the words that can connect your deepest, most urgent need to Saint Anthony's immense power in heaven. But let me guide you on how to pray this prayer with maximum effectiveness, because simply reading it once and hoping for instant results is not enough. This prayer calls for your full commitment, unwavering faith, and intensity of spirit. Share this message with those who need a miracle, and let them know that what they're about to learn could be the key to their answered prayers. To begin with, you must pray this prayer for 9 consecutive days. This is known as a novena, a powerful tradition that shows your dedication and faithfulness to Saint Anthony. Every day, set aside a quiet moment in the same place, with a focused and devoted heart. Let each prayer be an act of trust and a sign of your belief in Saint Anthony's intercession. As you pray each word, imagine Saint Anthony listening to you, feeling his compassionate presence, and knowing that he is already working on your behalf. He is already carrying your request to the heavenly throne, already moving the pieces of your life to make your miracle a reality. What I want you to understand is that during these 9 days, you must pray with an ever-increasing urgency. Do not allow your faith to weaken as time passes. Instead, let it grow stronger with every passing moment. Allow your trust in Saint Anthony's powerful intercession to deepen, and let your gratitude for his help overflow. This is a prayer that requires patience, and the understanding that Saint Anthony might be working behind the scenes in ways you cannot immediately see. Many people overlook the subtle signs and synchronicities that occur during their novena. Saint Anthony works in mysterious ways, arranging circumstances, moving hearts, and preparing solutions even before you notice. Take Lisa Thompson's story as an example. She prayed fervently for her teenage son, who had run away and was living on the streets. For the first 7 days, there was no visible change. But on the 8th day, Lisa noticed something small but significant: a social media friend request from her son's childhood friend. That friend reached out, started a conversation, and through that, she discovered that her son was downtown and in need of help. This simple exchange led to the friend reaching out to her son. which eventually resulted in his return home, counseling, and a renewed relationship with his family. All of this happened after 9 days of prayer. But the miracle had begun from the very first day Lisa started praying. Saint Anthony had been orchestrating every detail from the beginning, moving hearts, preparing paths, and creating opportunities for the miracle to unfold. This is why it is so important to complete all 9 days of prayer. Even if you don't see immediate changes, trust that Saint Anthony is working in ways you may not be able to perceive yet. His influence is moving hearts, changing lives, and preparing the answers to your prayers in ways that will amaze you once they are revealed. So, I ask you now, what miracle are you praying for? What is it that you need Saint Anthony to intercede for? Share your thoughts in the comments, and let others know what day of your novena you are beginning. When you pray with genuine faith and a desperate heart, you will begin to notice the signs. They start small, but they lead to something extraordinary. Keep your heart open and your trust unwavering, because your miracle might be closer than you think. Stay patient, stay faithful, and wait for Saint Anthony's divine intervention. A reflection on the power of prayer. Trusting Saint Anthony's intercession and waiting for a miracle. In the fast-paced, instant gratification world we live in today, we often expect quick results for our efforts. Whether it's a simple task or something as serious as a prayer for a miracle, we send out our requests and, in return, expect an answer just as swiftly. But what if we told you that the real power of prayer lies not in the immediate, but in the quiet perseverance, the trust, and the steady faith that builds over time? What if the waiting period, the time we spend praying without seeing tangible results, was the most powerful part of the journey? This is where the concept of novena prayer and trusting in Saint Anthony's intercession comes into play. The prayer that has been shared with you isn't just about asking for help and receiving an answer on demand. It's about a deep, unwavering commitment. And it's about seeing God's work in your life unfold in mysterious ways, even if you cannot yet understand them. Let's take a deeper look at this powerful prayer, the novena, and the profound impact it can have on your life. The power of novena. A spiritual commitment. The concept of a novena isn't new. It has been practiced by Catholics for centuries, originating as a way to invoke divine intervention in urgent matters or to express deep gratitude and devotion. A novena consists of 9 consecutive days of prayer. And while it might sound simple, the power of the novena comes not from the number of days or the repetition of words, but from the commitment, the faith, and the perseverance that each day represents. Each day of the novena prayer is an act of total trust in God and in the intercession of Saint Anthony. When you pray to Saint Anthony, you are inviting him to intervene on your behalf. You are placing your life, your troubles, and your deepest desires into his hands, with the belief that he, through his closeness to God, can present your petition before the divine. It's a beautiful relationship of trust between you and Saint Anthony, one that requires a heart open to receiving God's grace, even when the answer may not come in the form you expect. As you pray each day, I encourage you to consider what it truly means to place your trust in someone. When we trust in God and His saints, it means surrendering our anxiety, our doubts, and our impatience. It means acknowledging that we don't have all the answers, but believing that God does. It means accepting that the timing of our miracle may not align with our human expectations, but that does not diminish the certainty that it is coming. The importance of patience and faith in the waiting period. In our world today, patience is often overlooked. With technology, social media, and instant messaging, we are conditioned to expect immediate responses. Waiting is something most people struggle with because it feels like time is being wasted. But in prayer, patience is essential, especially when seeking something as profound as a miracle. The prayer to Saint Anthony teaches us that waiting is not a passive act. It is an active exercise in faith. You must trust that Saint Anthony and, more importantly, God are working behind the scenes, even when you cannot see the results immediately. Take a moment to reflect on the story shared in the prayer about Lisa Thompson, a mother who prayed for her rebellious son who had run away. At first, she saw no visible signs of progress, but as she continued her novena, small, seemingly insignificant moments began to unfold. A social media friend request led to a conversation that ultimately led to her son's safe return. You see, the miracle wasn't the immediate act of her son returning home, but rather the entire process of how God and Saint Anthony worked behind the scenes, orchestrating the timing, the events, and the people involved. This story speaks to the powerful truth that miracles often unfold gradually. They are not always immediate, but they are always happening. Saint Anthony, in his deep connection with the divine, is interceding for you in ways you cannot even perceive. While you may feel like your prayers are unanswered, know that everything is being prepared for the moment your miracle will be revealed. The waiting period is not time wasted. It's a time of preparation, of invisible work being done on your behalf. Through patience, you are being strengthened, and your faith is being tested and refined. Understanding Saint Anthony's role in divine intervention. Saint Anthony of Padua is one of the most beloved saints in the Catholic Church. He is known for his great compassion, wisdom, and the miraculous interventions he performed during his lifetime. What makes Saint Anthony particularly powerful in prayer is his closeness to God. His life was one of humility, prayer, and devotion to serving the Lord, and it is through these qualities that he became a powerful intercessor for those in need. In times of desperation, many people turn to Saint Anthony, asking for his intervention in their lives. But why Saint Anthony? What makes him so special? The answer lies in his deep relationship with God and his compassion for humanity. Saint Anthony is not just a saint of miracles. He is a saint who understands the struggles of life and the pain that people endure. When you pray to him, you are asking for a helper who not only carries your petition to God, but also understands the burden you carry. Saint Anthony knows what it's like to experience suffering, and he uses his closeness to God to bring about miracles in the lives of those who seek his intercession. This is why we can pray with confidence, knowing that Saint Anthony's intercession is powerful and deeply compassionate, trusting in the miracle that is already in the works. When we pray to Saint Anthony, we must remember that God is already working on our behalf, even before we can see the answers. Your prayers may not be answered immediately, but that doesn't mean they are not being heard. God operates in mysterious ways, and his timing is perfect, even when we cannot understand it. Miracles take time to unfold, and sometimes the miracle is not in the immediate answer, but in the entire process of how it comes to be. So, when you pray, ask yourself, can I trust God's timing? Can I trust that Saint Anthony is working on my behalf, even when I don't see it yet? These are tough questions, but they are necessary ones. Trusting in God means trusting in his timing and his way of answering prayers. It means surrendering your expectations and allowing the miracle to unfold in its own time and form. The spiritual transformation through prayer. As you pray each day of your novena, remember that this time is not just about asking for a miracle. It is about spiritual growth. Prayer has the power to transform you. It strengthens your relationship with God, deepens your faith, and teaches you the virtues of patience, humility, and trust. The more you pray, The more you align your heart with God's will, you begin to see that the miracle you desire might not be as much about changing external circumstances as it is about changing your own heart and perspective. As you wait for your miracle, ask yourself, what is God teaching me in this season of waiting? How is my faith growing through this prayer? How can I remain patient, hopeful, and trusting as I wait for Saint Anthony to intercede on my behalf? Conclusion: the power of hope and patience. The prayer to Saint Anthony is not just about asking for something, it's about growing in faith, trust, and patience. It's about recognizing that God works in His own time, and that miracles are often revealed in ways we don't expect. Through the novena, we learn that our prayers are always being answered, even if we can't see the results right away. Remember, miracles are not just about instant solutions to our problems. They are about the transformation that occurs in our hearts and lives as we trust in God's plan for us. So, continue praying, continue trusting, and continue waiting with hope. Your miracle might be closer than you think. And in the process, you are becoming more aligned with God's will, growing stronger in your faith, and opening your heart to the divine intervention you seek. Stay patient, stay faithful, and wait for the miracle that is already in the works.